The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. No, just my.
You're cutting out.
Okay, today we've got a special guest. One of the
Rod, you're cutting out.
She doesn't own a gun. But she has taken some firearms training classes through me.
Oh, I don't know what's going on.
All right, so I'll while Rod's getting his stuff fixed, I'll take care of everything here real quick. So, like we always do at the start of every show, we want to give a big shout out to the troops overseas, men and women deployed, serving overseas, and on the home front. We appreciate everything that y'all are doing for us. Keep up the good work. Come home safe. We're all rooting for you, and a huge happy holidays to everybody as well. We do have a special guest on the line, and worst case scenario, if Rod's equipment's crapped out on him, then we will get Rod on the phone with us as well. But Rod's daughter, MacKenzie, is going to be joining us on the line. And MacKenzie, go ahead and say hi to everybody.
Hi, it's great to be on the talk show tonight.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. As I mentioned, you're already Rod's daughter, so you don't have to repeat that. But go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am 20 years old. I live in a city, and it's very populated, high crime rates. I've got a son. He's almost a year old. And yeah, that's something about me. Can't really think too much.
Okay. So then you definitely sound like you have a lot to worry about. Well, I wouldn't say worry, but a lot to take into consideration. Like you said, you live in a city that's got a high crime rate and everything, and you have a 1-year-old child who I'm sure Rod just absolutely adores.
Yeah. He's a little G-snap.
Oh man, that's cute. So,
Yeah, that's my G-Snap, short for grandson, and I'm his G-Pop.
G-Pop and G-Snap. So,
yeah, I think I just had a cable come loose. Sorry about that, guys.
Not a problem. It happens. We are, we here at 2AT are fully aware of that Murphy's Law can just come along and happen at any moment.
Right. So MacKenzie, and thank you, Daniel, for covering for me. And you know, tell me, have you ever been affected by gun violence?
Yes.
And would you like to share that story?
1 second.
Murphy's Law.
Murphy's Law, yep.
Okay. So, one time I was just running around with my friends, and this guy went to, exchange a gun with someone, and he shot himself in the hand.
And you witnessed this happen.
If I understand this correctly, you were hanging out, and somebody had a gun
if I was
and shot himself in the hand.
I'm sorry, Rod. She was talking over you, and I asked her. She had witnessed this happen, and you said you were Kenzie. You said you'd been laying down, and
like I had my head on the what's it called, the center console.
Yeah.
And then this person like exchanged a gun, and they didn't know like gun safety or anything, and they shot themselves in the hand.
And you said, had you been sitting up, the round would have hit you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow, well, that's very, very fortunate then that didn't happen. But,
So how did that make you feel, MacKenzie? I mean, having not really been exposed to guns, gun safety, or anything, at that moment, how did you feel about people with guns?
Situation. And it was like, at first, it was like, okay, but then it was like, that's scary. Like, you don't want to be scared around things that are supposed to protect you, like, you want to feel confident.
Right.
Yeah, understandable. It's a scary situation for sure.
Yeah. Which, as we've said on the show before, a gun is a tool like any other tool, and how it's used is 100% solely dependent upon the user itself. Just like a hammer or a screwdriver or a nail gun. And if you don't respect this tool and treat it with the respect it deserves, then accidents can and do happen.
Yeah. Another time I went out to get gas really late, and someone pulled a gun to my head and tried to rob me.
Wow.
Yeah. It's intense.
That's
so two really negative experiences with firearms. Do you have any positive experiences that you could share?
I'm sorry. Say that again, Rod.
So, MacKenzie, you've had two really negative experiences with firearms. Are there any where firearms help?
Yeah. There's another time I was being dropped off at a gas station to meet some other friends because the place I felt was unsafe. And while I was waiting, these people noticed we weren't leaving. And so whenever I tried to get out of the car, these people came from the back seat and tried to kidnap me. And my friend ran out of the gas station and put a gun into her, and they were let her go or I'm going to shoot you.
Man, this is incredible because a lot of these stories I'm just hearing for the first time today. And as a father, you hate to hear that that somebody tried to kidnap your daughter, but at the same time, being a firearm advocate, it's a relief that person was there with a gun and they had the courage to intervene.
Absolutely, yeah. That's I couldn't even. Well, and Rod, you said this is the first time you're hearing it. I couldn't even begin to fathom what you're feeling right now as a father. That's just got to be just all I can imagine is just a rage. Really, just a sense of relief that Kenzie is fine, obviously. But at the same time, just this sense of rage, it's, I just really don't know how to describe it.
And you're absolutely right. It's a whirlwind of emotion that you feel as a father. I can look at her and my grandson and I feel love and I feel relief. You're absolutely right. At the same time, I feel that it supports the cause that we also support, and that is the Second Amendment, because a good guy with a gun will always stop a bad guy with a gun.
Absolutely right. I don't remember who said it, but I'm sure the quote that I'm about to say. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing.
Was that a biblical quote? I don't know for sure. I know I've heard it, and I thought it was in a biblical quoting sense, but or was it Boondock Saints? Yeah, I think it was the opening scenes of Boondock Saints. You ever seen that movie?
Yes. They were referencing the Kenny Genovese incident. But yeah, that's man. Well, Kenzie, I'm certainly glad that everything that you've experienced has managed to work out to the good in the end, for sure.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Everything.
So, Kenzie, I do have a question though. I mean, as a mother, what do you feel is important for you going forward?
No, just like being able to feel like I can protect myself, not feeling like I always have to have someone there.
And as somebody who has very limited exposure to firearms, what is it that you wish you had better access to, or that there were things that made it easy for you? What prevents you from buying a gun today?
Static.
I'm sorry, Rod. There was some static on the line there. Try that one more time. Ask her again.
What do you feel would help you in purchasing a firearm to protect you and your family?
Just like more like comfortability with it. You know, like like I don't know what I'm trying to say.
I think what you're trying.
Have you ever been to a gun store before?
You said what?
Have you ever been to a gun store before?
Yes.
And what did you notice? Did they have products in there designed for young women, maybe even mothers?
Honestly, I didn't notice anything like that.
So maybe, and this is just me thinking out loud, if the industry, meaning gun stores, manufacturers, would help target or at least listen or identify the people who really could benefit the most, and then provide those products, because how many times people go into Walmart for one or two things and they come out with 5 or 6, right? If gun stores had the same mentality that hey, we're going to cater to our clientele, right, to a target audience, meaning people who aren't familiar with firearms. Because right now, I'll be honest, I go into a gun shop and I feel pretty comfortable because I know what I'm looking for. But if I go in there having zero experience and I look around, let's say I'm a 20-year-old woman with a child, the only thing I'm going to immediately identify as potentially targeted towards me is a pink or purple gun, which is not, in my personal opinion, not the right answer, because now you've taken a tool and you've made it look like a toy. When as a young mother, you don't want that perception, especially as you're trying to raise your child and you want to teach them the responsibility and safety, right?
That sounded like a typical teenage answer.
She's not a teenager, though, right?
No, she's not. But I mean, at the same time, she is your daughter, and that's from my experience in the past. Fathers dealing with their children, no matter how old they are, father asks a question, and the child just, I'm still that way with my mother from time to time. So,
I was just like taking it in.
Yeah, no, Rod, I absolutely agree. I think out of all of the gun stores that I've ever been into, I've never seen one that can, they cater to a specific clientele, and that clientele is the male shooter. The gear.
Right, so what are some things that you would need in order to attract the market that is MacKenzie. MacKenzie, what would you look for if you were trying to outfit yourself to protect yourself and your son?
Something small that could like fit in my purse, but not too small that I feel like if I had nails on or something, like it would be in the way, like just something smooth and easy and comfortable.
Yeah, that's important. Something that you're comfortable with, and also something that you can secure, right?
Right. As far as actually not just the firearm itself, but as far as excuse me, as far as accessories that you would need to go along with it, such as say a secure means of transporting it on your person. You know, I've seen purses that are designed for women that have a specific pouch that you place the firearm in that's easily accessible to you while you're wearing it, but it's also concealed to somebody, say, who's walking beside you down the street.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like that, but that'd be cool.
Yeah, and something that can be locked up because little kids are going to be curious and they're gonna they're gonna see mom grabs treats and snacks out of the diaper bag. So you're gonna want a part of that diaper bag that the child can't access.
Right.
Yeah,
now,
just some food for thought.
Yeah. Now, it's my understanding, Kenzie, that you've been going through some training with your father. What sort of training have y'all been? Have y'all just been over basics as far as weapon safety and just some general target shooting, or have y'all gone more in depth?
Well, even like growing up, you'll just go over gun safety with us. But we had a couple, like I sat in for a couple of his classes, and we've like gone to the range one time. And my first time I did pretty good. We posted a picture on his training group page.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just some basics.
Okay. Now, what kind of training would you feel would benefit you as a single mother? What kind of training do you feel like would benefit you in the future as far as being comfortable with a firearm and being comfortable knowing that you would have the knowledge that you need to protect yourself and your child in any kind of situation?
Like, honestly, I would just need, like, one that's mine, so it's a routine, it's the same thing, it's familiar, because, like, and when I drive my car, I'm comfortable, but then say I drive my mom's car and it drives different.
Right.
Just like getting to know that and then expanding from there.
Okay. Rod, I think I know what you need to do for Christmas.
Yeah, these are all things that I've kind of run through my head before. Unfortunately, the flash to bang. She flies back tomorrow, so I don't think I can send one through the mail.
Right. So, what kind of firearms have you had experience with, Kenzie?
I know the prop ones my dad have are just plastic. And then what was the one we shot?
I started her out with the I believe it was the Ruger Mark IV. It's a great training pistol. It's a .22 caliber long rifle, very easy to shoot, very friendly on the pocketbook because it's not really expensive when you feed it. 22 ammo.
Right.
And we had a couple other firearms. I believe the MPX. And I'm not sure if she shot any of the other ones or not.
Okay.
No, I didn't. I'm pretty sure I shot the one.
So you've never had any experience with any kind of long guns, no rifles or shotguns or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Well, my recommendation, and I'm sure Rod would agree with me, you definitely need to, like you said, you need to find the firearm that you're comfortable with. Not just as far as how it feels in your hand when you're holding it and everything, but how comfortable you feel operating it as well.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I am definitely more for the idea of shot placement over caliber, because if you've got a 50 caliber and you can't hit what you're aiming at, it's not going to do you any good. And so that's another thing you need to take into consideration too. Like he said, something that's going to be easy on the pocketbook when you feed it, like a 22 or a 9mm, something along those lines. 9mm is my personal recommendation for people because depending upon the size of the firearm, it doesn't have a whole lot of kickback to it. I carry a Glock 19 myself. It's a big enough frame that it doesn't have a whole lot of recoil when you shoot it because it is 9mm. And like I said, if you hit them in the right place, they're going to stop. And if you hit them enough times, they're definitely going to stop.
Is there a firearm that you would purchase for a significant other or family member that you would recommend for them? You know, Christmas is coming up, so they may be listening, so be careful.
Right. Well, you know, the way I always approach it whenever I'm training somebody who is unfamiliar with firearms, what I do is I take them to a gun store. And then what I'll do is I'll walk them around. First thing I'll ask them, what is your budget? And then that automatically tells me if budget is, say, $400. Okay, well, we don't need to be over here looking at these 6-hour 938s or anything like that. So we'll just stay within the budget right here because you can still get a good firearm for $400 or less. And then we'll just start out from there. Here's one that I would personally recommend. Try it out. Hold it in your hand. See how it feels. Does it feel too bulky? Can you get your hand good and wrapped around it? Can you get a nice firm grip on it? How do you feel holding it? And then as far as caliber goes, things of that nature, that's when we go out to the firing range and I say, try this out. This is a 9mm. How does it feel in your hand when you're shooting it? So on and so forth. Try this one out. This is a 45. And just work our way up from there. Find what they're comfortable with. And then that narrows it down to a gun that they feel comfortable with for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And something else to remember is that your first gun isn't necessarily your last gun, right? I mean, be a student of many. You don't necessarily have to be a master of one.
Right. So that, Kenzie, would be my personal recommendation to you is, you know, before you leave town, I don't know, I know Rod said your flight is leaving out tomorrow. So if you have the time before you leave town, go with them to a local gun store or you may not even have to, because if I know Rod, he's probably got an armory in his house somewhere. But you know, y'all talk about this and get a feel for some stuff. Find some stuff that feels comfortable for you, and then when you get back home, if you have a gun store that has firing range indoors, a lot of times they will actually rent firearms if they have a built-on indoor gun range.
They do have some of those.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said they do have some of those.
Yeah. So that would be my recommendation is when you get back home, go to one of those stores and just try out a couple of different firearms. It's definitely worth it to spend, you know, $40 or $50, whatever the range fees are, and buy a box of shells and just try out some guns and see what you're comfortable with.
But be wary of anybody that tells you that you must do anything at the range. Take it with a grain of salt. I mean, besides, of course, the safety, you must be safe. But if they say, "Oh, you must hold it like this," take it with a grain of salt. Is my point, because not everybody who professes is expert.
Right. Yeah, like Rod said, just you got your range Rambos that think they know everything and they can't hit a broadside of a barn standing 2 feet away from it. So I have all trust and confidence that Rod has shown you what you need to know as far as the basics, the weapon safety rules, weapon safety handling, and everything. I think I know Rod well enough. He's shown you well enough that you could actually get started on your own. And then if you have any questions, I know for a fact Rod is only a phone call away for you.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm more of a hands-on type of person. Like, whenever I go out to the range with him, I feel confident, but I feel like if he's not right there, sometimes I like second guess himself.
Right. And confidence is key. Absolutely. Confidence is key, especially when it comes to any kind of interaction with a firearm. You have to be confident in yourself, you have to be confident in your weapon, and you have to be confident in your training.
Yeah. I'm definitely confident.
As the dad, what I just heard her say is that, he knows his stuff, but I'm not going to listen.
Oh, yeah, that's always been my experience dealing with family in the past is, they don't want to listen to me, but they'll listen to Dr. So-and-so tell them the exact same thing that I just told them.
It's different words.
And I can't explain that phenomenon, but it is absolutely true. I've seen it time and again. I try to give a period of instruction to a family member, and it's totally lost. And somebody who comes in and gives the exact same period of instruction, they'll be like, "Oh, that makes so much more sense." I don't get it, but yes, it happens.
Well, I think like Kenzie just said, it's how it's worded. And, sometimes we think, we've been around our family so much that we've seen instances where they claim to know all and then don't know jack shit. And then they hear another person say the same thing and they just kind of completely gaff off what our family members, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, like they just use the golden ticket.
But I will say this, Kenzie. I worked with Rod at Paris Island. We worked together, and Rod, I know I've told you this before several times that if you ever walked into my office and said that Corporal Sanders, pack your shit because we're getting ready to invade hell, without question, yes, sir. When's the bus leaving? So,
well, thank you. That's the kindest thing I think you've ever said to me, Daniel. I appreciate
it. So yes, I will say, Kenzie, definitely don't treat it with the he's my father and he talks all the time and he doesn't know what he's talking about kind of thing. Because in this instance, I will say Rod is definitely an expert. So.
He always knows what he's talking about. That's why I don't talk to him, because I know he knows. And then I'm like, I should know, but I don't know.
Oh, man. All right, guys. I know Christmas is coming up, and I can't afford all this flattery.
And this is real.
You guys are making me blush, please.
Oh, man. So... Well, Kenzie, we do definitely appreciate you being on the show with us for sure. We're definitely glad everything has all of these instances that you shared with us. I know me personally, I'm glad everything worked out well for you. That nothing too serious happened, and I know Rod, as a father, is just, I would say, beside himself with some of the things that he's heard, but at the same time, he's also just overwhelmed with joy that, like I said, everything worked out in the end. So,
yeah, you just have to trust your instincts and trust the right people.
Absolutely. So we do definitely appreciate you being on, Kenzie. And you're welcome. You're welcome to stay on with us, and if you'd like to share your input on some of the things we're going to be talking about, I know you've got your little one there, so if you want to go take care of him and let us talk business here, then by all means, or like I said, you're welcome to stay with us.
I will stay on for a minute, and if I need to leave, I'll let you know.
Excellent, great.
So if we hear her hang up, we know we've been too boring.
Yes.
So the first topic that I'd like to bring up is actually from Kinsey in my home state of Missouri. Just on the 13th of December, the mayor signed a city ordinance that bans guns from all St. Louis city parks. And the way they were able to circumvent the Second Amendment was by declaring all state parks as child care facilities, and therefore banned from allowing firearms in them. Daniel, tell me, am I crazy, or is this a ludicrous step in the wrong direction?
Well, no, that's extremely insane. And my smart ass, the way I would counteract that is I would show up at, the first city or state park that I come across and say, okay, I'm here to drop my child off. Where's the daycare provider at?
Right, and Missouri is very very much a Second Amendment supportive state. Missouri allows adults to carry guns in the open. So this is what do you think? Is this a political move, or do you think that this is actually designed to keep people safe?
I say, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure whoever wrote this thought they had the best intentions in mind as far as protecting people, but at the same time, I can't help but wonder what good they're doing by stopping me from going into such a public area and not being able to carry to defend myself.
So you're saying that it's actually going to put more people in danger?
Yes, I think it could. Absolutely.
So what are your thoughts on perverting a law that prevents people from carrying firearms into a child care facility? I mean, is this an abuse of the system, or is this just clever policy making?
I would personally call it an abuse of the system, because first and foremost, I don't know how it is in Missouri, but it's my understanding here in Alabama, and if I'm wrong, then I'll push on this later. But it's my understanding, like here in the state of Alabama, like a daycare is not considered an education center. Is not, all the daycares in this area, they're privately owned. They don't, to my knowledge, they don't receive any type of government funding. That they're not the same as like the school that I went to or the school right up the street.
Yeah, and in fact, in the state of Missouri, one of the laws says that not even a summer camp isn't classified as a child care facility. So, or Bible camp or anything like that. And if a summer camp is exempt, how can they then use that same law and pervert it to the point to prevent people from carrying in a state park?
Right. Well, you know what? As long as we've got MacKenzie on the line still, I want to propose this question to her. So, Mackenzie, as a single mother, do you send your child to daycare at all?
No.
Okay. So then we're going to have a little bit of a what if scenario then. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that your child does go to a daycare facility, a local daycare facility. How would you feel personally knowing that there was a parent whose child went to the same daycare facility who carried a firearm?
I would feel happy. Like, wait, did you say the parent or like the staff?
A parent.
A parent? Well, I mean, I feel like everyone has the right to protect themselves, and I feel like the parent would do the right thing, and then if something bad was happening, would save me and my child.
Right. So I agree.
Yeah, excellent point, and I like how she phrased it. You know that you know she wants somebody to protect her child. You know, because we all want that, and I don't think anybody in the right mind would say that they support school shootings, right? So, but the answer isn't to prevent people from caring. That's only going to stop the good guy from caring. And as I've said before, the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Yeah, excellent point.
Yeah, my high school was designed like in an arch, like so you have to keep going like around almost in a circle, so it gives you time to run in a school shooting. Like, that's insane that they have to build schools to give you extra time.
Well, I mean, it's one of those.
No, but that's actually really smart because somebody's put the thought into protecting people. You know, and you know, I've mentioned it before, and I'm quoting Dave Grossman on this. That you know, in the last 50 years, no children have died in a fire in a school, and the reason for that is because you have overlapping layers of protection. You know, for you know, a school, you have fire suppression systems, you have emergency lights, you have well-lit exits. They build all of the material in the school out of things that are flame resistant. You know, so all of these things work together to protect children. So the architecture and the construction of the school to make it, I guess, inconvenient or not as target-rich environment for an active shooter is a good start. But it's only one layer. You've got to have overlapping layers, right?
Right. You know, and like you said, the overlapping layers, it's not just how the building is designed, it's having the school resource officer on the building, depending upon the size of the building, the campus, having multiple school resource officers. So that way, if only one officer is on the campus and he's on this end of the campus and over here on the east side of the campus is where the shooting is happening, he's not going to have to run through hordes of people and run through buildings or everything to try and get to where the incident's occurring. That's another example of overlapping layer of protection, is having multiple school resource officers throughout the property to cover all of those zones.
Right, yeah. You have more than one fire extinguisher in a school, right? You don't have a fire extinguisher because you like to light fires. You have it to put out fires. The school resource officer and you know, maybe even those other educators who feel comfortable and are trained, have the adequate training and the confidence to carry, should be afforded that opportunity. Because why would you deny somebody an ability to fight a fire just because you think they may start a fire?
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely. Yeah, like you said, just all of the overlapping layers of protection that are put in place. You can't just have one school resource officer covering a 50-acre campus or whatever. You can't have just one fire extinguisher to protect an entire building if a fire breaks out. So,
excellent point. Yes.
Yeah, you can't. Like I said, I think this is nothing more than just a political move. what you were talking about, declaring the parks and everything. And I think it's a bad move, is what it is.
Yeah, I agree, and hopefully somebody with some sense will see through it and take the necessary steps, whether it's at the ballot box or if they've been elected to office, to realize that taking guns away from the good people and preventing them from carrying in places where you have a gun problem, where you have crimes, isn't helping anybody but the criminal.
Right. I know...
So speaking of politics, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I know here in the state of Alabama, they passed a law last year or year before last, I can't remember, where you could legally carry a firearm in, say, like a state park or a city park, anything that would be considered true public property. Now public businesses like the local mall or whatever, even though it's open to the public, it's still privately owned and they can set their own rules and regulations as far as that. But city parks, state parks, things of that nature, government-owned public areas, you can legally carry a firearm now. You can't go out to the state park now and start shooting deer willy-nilly, but I know there was an incident where I was walking through the park one day, hiking a trail, had my gun on me, and thank God I did, because I encountered a wolf. And
what?
Yeah. Fortunately, this wolf had its eyes on something else instead of me, but I felt comfortable knowing that I had the means to protect myself if that wolf decided to look at me and decide to make me his afternoon snack.
Yeah,
wilderness places
save a bullet
for yourself just in case.
I'm gonna call it the Smokey the Bear Act, but I don't really know what it is. But it's where you can defend yourself. You can have like axes or something, like if a bear were trying to attack you.
I'm not real sure I'd want to go toe to toe with a bear, even if I've got an axe. That's
No, but it's like you can protect yourself with different like weapons and such.
That's
I believe that self-defense is right. It's a God-given right. I don't think anybody should feel that they have to subject themselves to the violence of another human, animal, or whatever.
Yeah, no, I agree. Still, though, I mean, I'm just picturing somebody walking a trail through Colorado, being attacked by a bear, and pulling an axe out, and go. It's almost like this story that I read about a man was hiking down a trail and got attacked by a mountain lion and killed it with his bare hands.
Man, there's a guy with a lot to live for.
Yeah. That was, and I'm just imagining this guy sitting in a bar picking up chicks. Yeah, I killed a mountain lion with my bare hands.
Ridiculous. Nobody would believe him. I mean, unless you had video evidence, especially now in today's day and age, right?
Right. Yeah, no, that's crazy, and I really do hope somebody with enough common sense is going to look at that law and say, that's a little bit ridiculous. And speaking of ridiculous laws, Virginia, I swear to God, this country is headed for another civil war, and Virginia is going to be the starting point. Because as we've been,
I still think it's going to be South Carolina, but no. Let me hear why is it Virginia?
Well, as we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks on the show, all of the gun laws that Virginia is trying to pass. Now that Virginia is a blue state, they control both the state House and Senate. Plus, they have a Democratic governor. All of these
almost. So you're mostly correct, and I was going to lead into this a second ago, before I stepped on you, but it's going to be a Democrat-controlled General Assembly takes office in January. Okay. So I'm going to put that on, and I'm going to let you finish your story.
Yeah. So they are already writing up all of these different legislations, from confiscation to bans to red flag laws. They've kind of backed off on the confiscation, the idea of it, over the last few days. But they still want you to register firearms, which, as I've said in the past, and you have as well, registration leads to confiscation, because why else would you want to know who owns what? Unless you plan on, at some point, showing up on their door saying, hey, we want to have this.
Right. And you know, they don't even have to come up to your doorstep, right? So you know, in my mind, they're not going to go that extreme, because they saw what happened to Beto, right? Whenever he said he would confiscate. But no, they can levy taxes on people who own firearms. If you own, you know, anything with, you know, high capacity magazines, as they like to call them, or quote unquote assault rifles. Oh, well, now you're going to be subject to higher taxes. Higher premiums insurance, because there's a gun and it could go off and injure somebody unintentionally.
Yeah.
So that, you know, basically preclude people from being able to own it, making ownership too expensive. Right?
Yeah. And you know, I talked about this on my show last night, Two Beards Talking. You know, now, I don't remember who it was that said it. But I think he's one of either the senators or senator-elect. Basically, and he's referencing all of these counties that are turning themselves into sanctuary counties. You know, we're not going to fund or enforce any of these laws that we feel are unconstitutional.
So do you think that there's any enforceability behind somebody or a county that is a sanctuary county? I mean, for example, if the ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, were to come into the county because they wanted to confiscate or they had a suspect they wanted to detain or arrest, do you think these counties that call themselves sanctuary counties are going to step in and prevent the ATF to protect the citizens from the federal government?
Well, I mean, we just have to wait and see how it plays out. But you know, what this government official for the state of Virginia has said is, if they refuse, you know, you are sworn officers of the law. Talking about these deputies and sheriffs and all of these other people, saying you are sworn officers of the law. It is your duty to enforce the laws that we pass. And if you do not enforce these laws, you are violating your oath, and you will be asked to resign. And if you refuse to resign, then the governor can...
Then the governor can what? Daniel? Then the governor can what?
The governor can activate the state National Guard to come in and enforce the laws in place of law enforcement.
Wow. So do you think that the counties going to the sanctuary cities or counties, do you think this is meant to put political pressure on elected officials, or do you think that there's some actual legitimacy behind it? I mean, is this the fuel that's going to start the Civil War?
I truthfully think it is, especially if the governor tries to activate the National Guard to enforce any of these laws, because, you know, I don't know if the National Guard takes the same oath that we do as active military. But, you know, we as military, we swear an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, not the elected officials.
I'm looking that up now. National Guard oath.
Yeah, we I, Daniel Wayne Sanders, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, not the politicians that sit on their asses on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, but it does say, against all enemies, foreign and domestic, I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me. Right? Yeah. So yeah, I guess if the top brass in the Guard are convinced that the Second Amendment isn't worth defending, then the state has a real problem.
Well, I would say the National Guard has a real problem too, because that means the top brass are not taking their oath seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent point, for sure.
So, it's getting pretty hairy. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to watch what happens in Virginia over the next few months. I mean, is this all a bunch of saber rattling? Even the NAACP has come out and spoke against Hampton County in Virginia for becoming a sanctuary city.
Well, I was reading online earlier today. I think it was Tazewell County. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but I think it was Tazewell County. On top of declaring themselves a sanctuary county, they are also funding a local militia. They are invoking a right of the Constitution to activate and fund a local militia in defense of the Constitution.
Well, yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I think we are the militia, though. I don't think that we need to be paid. And I'd really like to see what they plan to do with those funds. If it's something like, hey, we want to train people, then yeah,
I think when they say funding,
that's 100%.
Yeah, I think when they say funding, that's what they're referring to is training and equipping these individuals.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about equipping. I think that. But and the reason I paused there is because it could easily turn from, hey, this is a militia, like your Minutemen ready to respond, to becoming a warlord, right? And now you have your own private army operating within your state. And with politics being the way they are, it can easily be swayed one way or the other. Who's giving the best equipment? Who's paying the most salary? Who's buying the new trucks? Right? What do you think?
No, I agree, and that's why I said the situation in Virginia is starting to look very hairy. We're very quickly reaching the boiling point, and it's only a matter of time before either somebody shuts off the heat or water starts boiling over the side.
Yeah, and I think that you're absolutely right, because there is so much uncertainty in what's going to happen next that it's always best to be prepared for the worst, hope for the best, and settle for something in between. Right? That's a quote taken from Oliver North. Yeah. Also a Marine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's better to be a gardener in a war it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yeah. And somebody was telling, and I'm not sure if it was a biblical quote or something like that, but it talked about the, everybody who took their swords and forged them into plows will use those plows for the people who kept their swords.
Yes, absolutely. So I would really hate to see something happen, but at the same time, I don't know. I'm kind of the idea that a thing like war. I won't say war. I'll say conflict. A thing like conflict is inevitable in life, and like I phrased it to a friend of mine earlier, it's almost like a computer. You know, you have to shut down and install updates in your computer on a regular basis to keep it running smoothly. And the longer you let it go without installing these updates, then the worse your computer starts to run. And then eventually it gets to the point to where you have to take drastic measures to get it fixed and get it back up in working order.
I see your analogy, but at the same time, I avoid putting the updates on my phone just because eventually it causes it to run like crap. But the operating system that it came with, it always ran fine. So sorry, maybe I'm off base with that, but I don't know. I think I'm an old operating system, and that if you start trying to change the rules, you're going to corrupt what the original operating system was designed to do.
I mean, yeah, both analogies work either way. I don't know. It's just it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, for sure.
And if there's one point that I think that we can all agree on, or at least we would like to drive home, is that we really can't depend on the government for our safety. We need to defend ourselves, right? Yeah. It's important to have strong military. It's important to have law enforcement, and all of these, all the men and women in the uniform. We're rooting for them because we're cut from that same bolt of cloth. But at the same time, they're not there every day with boots on the ground, to defend your house. They're going to respond when you need help. They're the QRF, but you can't go into the fight unarmed, thinking that they're going to do all the heavy lifting for you because you may not have enough time.
Right. Absolutely. The only thing I can say about it is, the boogaloo is imminent. So get your stabby sticks and your yeet cannons ready just in case.
Yeah. So because the show started late, do we get extra time, or are they going to cut us off?
I was just curious about that myself. I mean, we're going to keep going until I'm told to shut up. So,
I mean, we can keep going even after they turn us off. But that would be very exciting.
Now, you were saying something earlier before the show started about an incident that occurred there in South Carolina in Columbia.
Right. So, and it was an article sent to me by a listener who I hold in high regard, and it's I'm trying to pull it up now. Columbia carjacking gun thieves got stiff prison sentences from federal judge. So, and I only got a chance to skim it before the show, but I guess they had there was a crime spree, and they'd stole cars at gunpoint, raided firearms and ammunition from an August 2018 gun show. I guess they've finally been brought to justice by peace officers, and the federal judge handed down prison sentence of 21 years and 10 months to it looks like
we gotta give up.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, that was our producer that just came in, so we're running out of time. So I'll say real quick, don't forget to go check us out on Facebook, 2AT Second Amendment Talk. Like us, follow us, interact with us, let us know what you think, share your thoughts and opinions with us. Again, big shout out to the troops overseas and on the home front. We appreciate everything you guys and gals are doing for us. Come home safe, and happy holidays to all of you. And MacKenzie, thank you for being on the air with us. We do greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we're going to close out with that. So this has been 2AT Second Amendment Talk on Armed Radio. I am Daniel Sanders for Rod Burks. Thanks for listening, everybody.